Greetings. I am Tom Earl. Welcome to the celebration. We know you could be anywhere, so we are grateful that you are here with us today. You are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. Welcome to our new series. As you can see, I'm not alone. I have an amazing guest. He goes by the name of Estuardo David Mazariegos. How you doing today, Estuardo?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying the beautiful weather.
So, for the folks out there who don't know you, or maybe just know you as that awesome dad in the daycare pickup line, or that good looking neighbor down the street, or had just never heard of you, what's a little bit about yourself you can share with them? It can be anything you'd like.
Yeah, like you said, I am a dad, really happy to be a dad. I feel blessed to be a dad, really. Definitely is one of those things that have happened just recently in my life, but I feel that it's helped me round me out as a person. I am both a fighter and a lover. I fight because I love the things that I love very deeply, like my family and my community, and justice. Really, I really love and care about the people around me that live in my community that make up the city. I love the city. I absolutely love the city. I'm an Angelino. Um, very much identify as an Angelino, and I consider myself, an ambassador to Los Angeles for a lot of folks. Both when I'm here, I always like, gloating about my city and my community, both the struggles within the city and also its greatness that lives within the city. And when I'm abroad, I always love talking about my city and how awesome it is. Well, I'm also an immigrant. I am Guatemalan. I came here as a baby, and I also identify as a Guatemalan immigrant. And I'm an organizer. I definitely love, door knocking and talking to people and getting to know people. That's what I've done for 15 years of my life. The last 15 years of my life is just go up and down the state of California, engaging people about issues in their neighborhoods and communities and at workplaces, and talking through like how to make improvements and how to build collective communal power and how to make positive changes in society and get people who historically haven't been heard, get heard. And one last thing is I love basketball. Absolutely love basketball. So yeah.
I feel like all those things I knew, but the basketball one, that was a surprise. You stuck in there at the end.
Yeah, I love basketball. I love bicycling, but the reason I love bicycling is because I can't play as much basketball as I used to.
Mm.
Yeah.
So are you a Milwaukee Bucks fan? Is that your favorite team?
No way. I am a Lakers fan. The only thing I like about the Milwaukee Bucks is that they brought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar into the league, who's an all-time great Laker.
And that they're from Milwaukee. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, so why don't we wave to the camera? We can go camera off.
Okay.
So I have lots of follow-up questions, but before I do that, I didn't know if there's anything that you wanted to throw into the space before we jump into questions I have, or there's anything you wanted to speak on or toss in here before I ask some questions.
Not generally right now. Yeah, just open to the conversation and just having a conversation with a neighbor right now.
Okay, so let's break down some of the words you said. Let's start with community. What is community?
Yeah, I mean, to me, community is just, I feel like community is wider than just like the people that live around you. Community is all of us, really. We all share, whether or not we know it or not. I feel like we all share in the world. We're all one big village, essentially, and I think community is bringing all of us together to realize that we all are in this together, right? That life, the world, our families, the places that we live in, that we all share this space, this time, the air together. So I think community, yes, it's like my neighbors, it's the folks that live around me, it's my family, it's my daughter. But to me, it's like a global community, it's a global village, right? I think it's the best parts of community are, the everyday interactions that we have with folks in our immediate lives. And also knowing that what I do here in Los Angeles has an impact for somebody all the way across the ocean in Africa or in Japan. That even though we're unconscious to it, we all share this space and time.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the frustrations and strife that we're seeing is due to the interconnectedness that I think a lot of people were wanting to resist,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people's ability to now work in places where their job isn't.
Yeah.
I think that's been a lot of the frustrations that we're seeing from folks is definitely the interconnected piece.
Yeah, totally. I feel like in Los Angeles, it's a good example of both the complexity of a community and also the fight to make everybody realize that they're connected. In Los Angeles, there's this myth of cars in Los Angeles. It's not a myth, it's a reality. It's a car-driven city, right? It's a city designed by cars. I don't know about you, but I've noticed, right, that if I ever drive my car in the middle of the day and I look around and I realize that everybody else is in their own car in their own world, listening to the music they want to listen to, and the temperature in their car, the temperature they want to be in. It's like in this city specifically, I feel like it's built to be individualistic. And as a community organizer, I've learned how to build common space, right? Where we break down those barriers that are built in the city. Like the segregation in the city is real, the car culture is real, and it's built to isolate people. This is like one of those cities where suburbs proliferated. So I definitely feel that in the city is a perfect example of both how society has driven humanity into individualism. And now more than ever, though, I also feel that folks are starting to break that down and come back together in many different ways. And I don't think it's ever really succeeded as well. I think like people have stayed connected regardless of the design of the physical world around them. I think people always find spaces to come together and feel connected in a collective way.
Hmm. Yeah, driving in Los Angeles it's something that I've brought up on the podcast because it's a fascinating study of human psychology. Because when you put people behind a wheel here in Los Angeles, it has a tendency to bring out people's like the worst parts of them, like their egos. It feels very dangerous to drive in LA. It feels even more dangerous to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I'm really looking forward to about going to Wisconsin is you could be, at least when you're in the country, like there's no one around for miles. It's just you and the open road. And has a relaxing element to it. Or like where my mom lives, if it's like, hey, can you run to the grocery store? Like if I do that here, I'm like, oh my God, that means I gotta cross this street and potentially this intersection. But there it's like, oh yeah, that actually sounds kind of relaxing. So I think that there's also this like stress and danger and competitiveness and other people in your life at risk to save 2 minutes, that is I've lived here, I've lived in Florida, and I've lived in Wisconsin. There's only three places, but I've never seen it like I've seen it here.
Yeah, definitely. I can understand the stress that you would feel, just seeing how folks act with their cars here. I think like in Los Angeles, cars are like an extension of a person in so many ways. I mean, I personally don't identify with my car. I'm more of a multimodal type of person. So like I like to walk in the city. I like to ride my bike in the city as well. I like to take public transportation, and I'm lucky enough to live in a place in Los Angeles where I don't really have to drive as much. So I usually walk or bike to things that I have to do more now than ever before. But in Los Angeles, definitely, like I see how people, um, it's almost like a status symbol, I would say, when you see folks driving like a really fancy $80,000 car. They feel like they have the right of way in terms of just blasting past stoplights or driving 50 miles an hour in residential areas or not paying attention closely to like, to the folks around them. And it's not to say that like I'm anti-car. I think cars are a tool, right? I think cars are like a tool just like anything else is. I feel like we've over deployed that tool and we have to bring it back, and give other options for folks. But also like, the materialistic side of cars is also not the best. Just like how fixated people are about cars is, yeah, I find that I used to be like, oh, that car is really nice. But as I gotten older, I realized how much of a money drain cars are and also how much of a waste of resources they are for humanity. And then, just the identity of cars with somebody's personality it's a problem. Yeah, it's like a continuation of like a materialistic view of the world that disconnects you from both your body and your community. So I definitely, I feel like cars, again, are a tool, but we've over deployed them and we have, in a very toxic way, have made them a part of human identity, and it's not a good thing.
Hmm. Okay, well, another term you brought up, I thought we could jump into was you talked about loving justice.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
like how do you define empathy? It's like it can be tough. So what for you is justice?
Love is justice, right? Justice is love. Like you can't have justice without love. And that means to me, it's just like when the folks in society that have struggled the most historically are doing good and are healing and have what they need as human beings, to take care of their needs. That to me is justice. So it's just like making sure that the folks that have been struggling historically, right? Whether it be Black folks, brown folks, immigrants, LGBTQI plus folks, it's like ensuring that everybody has an opportunity to live a dignified life. Meaning like, access to housing, access to basic necessities like water and food and education and um, medical services and medication and mental health access, and that folks aren't marginalized and accepted and heard. And, that everybody's voice is heard is a big thing, that there's like, a way where people who feel unseen are seen, basically, and that people don't feel alone, right? That we all know that we're all in this together. And that to me sometimes, right, it means that you have to take from the folks that have too much. There has to be some type of redistribution of wealth, of care, of compassion. Because some folks just don't have any compassion in their life. And some folks have way too much compassion in their life. Like, and it goes back to like, like what we value, like the whole materialism piece. Like, I feel like we uphold folks that achieve a material wealth and that like they are valued and they are kind of put on a silver platter or like a plateau above everybody else. And we look at folks that have nothing as almost disposable. And I'm saying like in society in general, right? And I think that that needs to be flipped. There needs to be kind of like, you know, like it's not about wealth isn't about accumulating material like goods. Wealth is about accumulating goodwill amongst humanity, right? So that's like another form of justice. It's like we should be uplifting folks that help people, that like get people medical attention, etc., and championing that as like an example of a good human instead of like a millionaire or a billionaire or somebody that knows how to exploit a system to the point where they can hoard resources, and I think that we need to be able to do that. So that's like, a long version of what I see as justice. It's like everybody having their basic human needs met, and then also recreating what we uplift and value as a human species, and then also making sure that people are seen and heard, and that nobody feels alone, that everybody feels like we're all in this together.
I'm with you on all of that. Yeah,
Good.
it's wild. There's such an assumption of geniusness around people who can successfully run big companies. There's like such an assumption that that's like a person to role model your life after. And just the other day, I came across somebody who is a very, very toxic person, like very toxic. Now, at all of our cores, we're the wonderful people, but the way that they've been socialized, very, very toxic person. And come to find out, this person's being groomed to be a CEO of. If I was to say the name of the company, you'd know the name of the company, and it was like, it makes sense. It makes sense that to be able to be at the top of the billions game, that for the most part, you have to be able to have a ends justify the means, never enough, reduce people to numbers on a spreadsheet, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to succeed at that game. Like it's baked into the score. There's not an ability to become a $1 billion company without some form of exploitation in the supply chain. And I think that it can become so like sanitized, and a lot of the technology and innovation that's created seems to be so wonderful and enhance our lives that we can lend itself to, these are the people we should role model our life after, when these people are deeply, deeply unhappy. And to me, it really makes sense that this kind of never enough, always needing to expand and expand, why this sick mentality has taken over the world, because what you were describing before doesn't have a desire to take over the world.
Yeah, and it's because it's the natural order of things, that like the connectivity, the love, it's what we call intuition. And what happens is that, in my opinion, there's like a war against that intuition of love, of connectivity, that happens from the moment that we were born, right? And I think it carries on, and like some folks adapt to it. I find those people that like run those schemes of exploitation, that learn how to exploit Mother Earth, exploit fellow brothers and sisters in humanity, exploit systems to extract wealth from society and from folks. I feel like those folks are spiritually broken because they are acting on impulses that they've learned to separate themselves from the greater consciousness of unity and universe and self. They don't even know who they truly are. And they're like empty vessels trying to find self-worth from something that truly is false. That what we have inside of ourselves is already more than enough. It's everything. And that, when folks are searching and searching for outside of themselves, they're essentially empty inside because they've emptied themselves out of all meaning and have, adopted a lifestyle that's set on material wealth that won't ever bring them the happiness that they're truly looking for because they've been blinded to what already exists inside of them, which is what we all have inside of us, what we all share, right? And that's the ignorance that they carry. And that's why they're driven so much into gluttony and consumption and exploitation because they feel like that's going to give them the happiness. I have this feeling that those type of folks on their deathbed realize that their entire life was a waste, that they've missed out on the opportunity to be connected to magic, to each one, to all of us. And they're probably really scared to not know what's going to happen, that all the billions or millions that they've collected really does not matter at the end, that we all go back to the same place. So there is no stratification that occurs. And that truly to me is like, what I see with people like that is, again, like broken spirits.
Mm. That was I feel like you nailed it. That was awesome. I'm with you on that. That was the right there. That's the summary. That's the okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Go ahead. You can add on. Go for it.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. Yeah, because I'm not perfect, and I have all those things that I've thought about in the past in terms of what do I need materialistic to be able to, do I need to accumulate more? I've realized that I find the most joy, yeah, of course I take care of my family, and of course I need to make sure that my family has food, roof over their head, clothing, all those things as well. And, I feel like those things, yes, I care about it as well. I'm not gonna sit here and say like I make my own shoes or clothing or anything because I don't. And that's what brings me back. I rely on so many people to live my day in and day out. So I honor those people by realizing that I'm connected to those people, right? And by not denying my connectivity to everybody and everything around me. And I think that's when I feel the happiest. And I feel like when I think about like the things that I don't have is when I feel the least happiest, right? When I have something that I want and I don't have it, I feel the least happiest. So I feel oftentimes that I have to let go of that wanting, right? I have to like feel completely at peace with where I am as a person. And I just only imagine like somebody that has $100 million, as much money as they ever want in the world, and they want more. Like, how broken do they have to be to want more than what you can spend in 20 lifetimes, right? Like, what's the end game, right? So it's a deep depression. I bet they're in. They're like sick, almost.
Yep. I'm with you. And then because that can become we're all socialized into that. So I think we can feel that even when you have 20
Mm-hmm.
grand a year, 30 grand, 100 grand, like that just wanting to, I think the myth that more, especially money, will, when you arrive at a certain amount of wealth, it will equate to a certain sense of a hole in you will be filled, or a sense of security will be created.
No.
And I just find you just, when you enter into the new money bracket that you wanted to get into, you reset. You reset. You do. It resets. Oh, well, actually, I don't feel it. So it must be that I need to make this much.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's always like you want more, it leaves you wanting more, right? And like you kind of have to you kind of have to be wise to it as well, that like it's a money game. It's like a trap, right? It's a trap game. It's about getting you wanting it, chasing it, and like not realizing that what you have inside is enough wealth,
Mm.
right? Like, yeah. You want more though. When you get into that new bracket, it's like, oh, what's the next bracket?
Well, I have some more questions, but I know it'll send us down another rabbit hole of conversation. So I will write them down and we will pick them up for next week's episode.
Okay.
So this is the part of the episode where you get to share with folks how they can connect with you, how they can support you, how they can continue the conversation with you. Where can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel well. I have social media. You could reach me at my social media. My Instagram is VexIllz, VexIllz, and yeah, that's my Instagram. I post a lot about myself on there and my family. I also have another Instagram that I just started called Hood Bloom, HOODBLOOM. That's kind of a new experiment that I'm trying to do, that I started a long time ago, but I haven't followed it up. I'm also on Instagram. I mean, on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook at Facebook. Just my name is Estuardo David Mazariegos. And on, let me see, on X, what used to be Twitter, same thing. Estuardo David Mazariegos. I don't have like Estuardo Mazariegos or at VexIllz as the same as my Instagram. So those are my handles right now. I need to up my game on Instagram and all my social medias, but honestly, like I'm so busy talking to people most of the time that I forget. But on my Instagram, I'm pretty active. So you want to see more about myself, just go to my Instagram. You'll see a bunch of stuff.
Wonderful. Appreciate that. And for us here, we host a monthly journaling workshop based upon getting the inside out and getting to know ourselves more deeply through process-oriented creativity. And then you also get a monthly journal and a private audio podcast that goes along with that. You can find that by going to tomearl.me/DCM invite. That stands for Direct Connect Method Invite. Okay, so our closing ritual is to share an invitation. So what would you like to invite people to do, to be, to consider, to think about, to read, to reflect upon? What's your invitation?
Yeah, my invitation to people is to listen to music and dance to that music and just enjoy dancing and music and dancing with the people that you love. I think is super important. Does not matter if you think you don't know how to dance. Everybody knows how to dance. Even if you're in a wheelchair or you're bedbound and everything, all if you can move your toe, if you can move your head, if you can blink your eyes, you can dance. It's just about the rhythm of music, right? If you feel it in your heart, you're good. Just try to be happy with that music and music is very healing and important to our existence.
I like that. I'll share an invitation along that lines too. I think it's helpful to reflect upon times where you feel where there's a creativity invitation and it feels like, no, that's not me. So singing a song, dancing, painting, writing, we often put down our own creativity. And usually that's because, whether we remember it or not, at some point, an adult usually that we care about discouraged us. So express yourself and express yourself for the process rather than the end result of expressing yourself. Okay. I'm excited for episode 2 coming next week. Thank you so much, Estuardo. I appreciate you for being here with us today.
Yeah, of course.
And to all those listening, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.